Hi, I'm Phillips, European Tour winner and PGA coach, and in today's lesson I want to teach all senior golfers who might be struggling a little bit with range of movement how to make the easiest possible golf swing. Okay, senior golfers, I feel your pain. I'm a particularly stiff person myself, and I've struggled with mobility over the years, and I've found as I've got older there are a few things that really help me to remain fluid and free and get the maximum clubhead speed that I need. Now, the first thing is mobility in the backswing. Now, having mobility in the through swing and being able to turn your hips massively is obviously a luxury for flexible and generally young, fit people, and as we get older, rotation in the hips becomes a little bit more difficult, and also rotation in the follow through really isn't as important as generating maximum range of movement going back, because without movement going back we can't get any speed going forward. So in other words, if I had the biggest hip turn imaginable through impact, but I had a backswing that was this long, it wouldn't matter because I wouldn't be able to generate any speed with the club head only going back that far. I need to get some range, I need to get the club back as far as I can get it in order for it to have the time to accelerate into the ball. So key number one is let's get the hips in an already turned position, okay? If I put my feet and hips square to my target line, as we're all taught when we're young, that's great and that's all well and good, but I need to have now the flexibility to actually rotate my hips, which as we get older gets more difficult to do. So why not just retract the rear foot? So we call that a closed stance. So I'm going to take the rear foot, retract it a good 5 or 6 inches, and now my hips are already turned. I don't need to turn them. They're out of my way already. Okay, now that's really important because I'm going to hit one now. And what you're going to see is when I clear that hip already, it suddenly gives me so much space to move my arms into. I don't need to create that space, it's already there. So here we go, let's have a go with my nice closed stance. You know, it just felt so much easier to get the club away because my trail side was cleared out of the way already and there was no need for any flexibility in that rear hip whatsoever. Now, one thing that's really important is when we stand with a closed stance in terms of the feet and hips, you've got to try and make sure that your shoulder line is parallel to your target line, because it's the shoulders that actually have the greatest influence on the path that the club head swings on. So as long as we get the shoulders nice and parallel to where we'd like to hit the ball, or parallel to our target line, you're going to have a better chance to actually swing the club in that direction. So really pay more attention to where your shoulders are aiming rather than where your hips and feet are aiming. Okay, point number one, let's get those hips out of the way. It's going to help you to create a lot more space and momentum in that backswing. Tip number two, I'm just going to tee one up again. There's a lot of talk in senior golf instruction about connection, okay? Let people talk about connecting the rear arm to the rib cage, connecting the lead arm to the rib cage. Now, that's all well and good, but the problem is we're struggling with range of movement, aren't we? So if we create further restrictions, to me that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. We want to create freedom. We want this swing to be easy and free and fluid and as long as we can possibly get it. Now, in order to do that, we need to actually make sure that the lead arm is swinging as freely from the shoulder socket as we can, and the way we do that is to try and swing it up and not around, okay? We don't want the feeling of rotation really. We've already rotated the hips by pulling the rear foot back. We've got the hips rotated. What we need now is freedom and momentum, and we're going to get that by making sure that the lead arm swings up from the shoulder socket. Now, this is a good thing to do without a club. Just get that feeling that your lead arm is actually swinging, okay? So it goes up and it falls down. And gravity is a huge key here. If we can use gravity instead of fighting gravity, it's going to make your swing a lot easier. So the old adage, what comes up must come down, is very apt in this situation. If we get that lead arm to swing up, it's going to be able to fall down easier, and we're going to get more speed, okay? It's actually a known long driving statistic. These guys, these world long drivers, it's one of their key factors that they work on is actually what they call lead arm chopping motion. In other words, the speed that we can swing that lead arm is absolutely critical to the speed we're going to get in the club head, okay? So as we get older, we need to make sure we don't lose any potential speed, and by getting that lead arm to swing up in the backswing freely, and this is also much easier from a range of motion perspective, it's easier to do to swing that arm up. Once we start trying to swing round, we need lots of thoracic rotation in the spine. We need lots of movements that are less available to us as we get older. It's much easier to let that arm just swing like a seesaw up and down than it is to try and rotate your trunk, okay? So lead arms got to be swinging much more up and down freely, and you'll see when I demonstrate in a minute, that actually is the easiest possible motion that we can make, as opposed to trying to get very rotary. Let's have a go. So shoulders nice and square to my intended ball to target line. I've got my rear foot back, my hips are already turned, and now I'm just going to get the feeling of my arms swinging up and down and not around. Here we go. And again, just a real sense of freedom there. There wasn't any need for me to try and coil my stiff body in a position that feels uncomfortable. I just let my arms swing up and down, and physically it felt very easy. Last key here, key number 3. Talked about gravity a little bit there and getting that arm up and letting it fall down. Now we can take that one stage further with the way that we use our feet and legs. Now again, if we want to create maximum range of motion going back, it would be a really good idea to make sure that the lead heel, okay, so the heel in the lead foot comes off the ground and you feel like you're stepping or standing up to the right, okay? So again, we're allowing freedom here, we're not restricting anything. Let your lead heel come off the ground, feel that your mass is allowed to shift to the right, okay? Now this sets up a whole chain of movement here, because once you've lifted the heel, now you've got something to fall down. Again, we're talking about gravity here. So we've lifted the lead arm, we've lifted the lead heel. Now we need to get the sensation that you actually just fall down. Okay, so you're not needing any muscular effort here. This is the key to this video. It's about the easiest possible swing for a senior golfer. Okay, and one that's going to repeat for you, and one that's actually going to generate much more speed than you trying to physically move that club head. We're using gravity, we're using momentum, we're using leverage, we've got the longest possible swing. Now, if you do want to add a little bit of speed with that lead arm and you feel like you can accelerate it, great. But let's use gravity in the first instance. So when I'm hitting this last ball, keys here, I'm just feeling that I allow the lead heel to lift, and then I just feel that it falls down. I'm letting gravity help me. I am falling into the shot. Okay, and when we fall, gravity is the easiest thing we can ever use because we don't need any effort. So here we go. Falling into the lead foot. Just as easy as it could be. It just felt like I stepped to the right and I stepped to the left and I let gravity help me. 3 keys then, let's summarize. Get your rear foot back, okay? Get your hips already rotated. You don't need to rotate them then, okay? But you must make sure that you get your shoulders parallel to your target line. It's the shoulders that are going to dictate where the club swings, not your feet and hips. Okay, key number 2, let's get the lead arm swinging up. Don't try and swing round. Get freedom in your swing. Let your arms swing nice and freely from the shoulder socket like this. You can see how easy that motion is. Okay, now even if you've got some restrictions in the shoulder joints and they're a little bit stiff, trying to rotate is not going to make that any easier. Just get the sensation that your arm is flopping up and down like this, and that'll give you the right sensation. Okay, so lead arm swings up, it falls down. Gravity. Let's help gravity one stage further with tip number 3. Lead foot, lead heel, let it come off the ground. Step to your right or step away from the target. Let that come off the ground. When it's off the ground, it's got somewhere to go. When the heel's up, you can let it fall down. If it doesn't come up, it can't go anywhere. So let the heel come up, let it fall down. Use gravity in the through swing. I hope these tips are going to help you tremendously to make the easiest possible swing that you can make. Please head over to my website, www.vanphillips.co.uk. There's a whole wealth of information on there based on 35 years of my study and research. Please subscribe as well, it helps me tremendously. Subscribe to my channel. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.